Welcome to the series of crochet fruits and vegetables. In this video, I am going to share with you a step-by-step pattern of making this crochet pear, which makes a great add-on to your kids' play food. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to DIY Crafts. For this, I am using 4-ply cotton yarn along with a crochet hook of size 3 mm. Now I am going to begin with a stem. Take a dark green color yarn and begin with a slip knot, leaving a long tail end. Now use this tail end to make the stem by making an I-cord. So wrap the starting tail end around the needle as shown in the video. Now take the working end, yarn over and bring the yarn out of these 2 loops at a time. And now we are going to repeat the same process for 4 more times. Wrap the tail end around the needle. Now you will have 2 loops, yarn over and bring the yarn through both the loops. That's second one, again, then the third one, now the fourth one, and then the fifth one. If you wanted a longer stem and you wanted to add a leaf, you can make it even more longer by just following the same method. Now I have done 6 chains and this will naturally take the shape of a stem as shown in the video. Now chain 1 and then trim the excess thread by leaving a tail end of 3 to 4 inches. And these are the tail ends which we use to attach it to the body of the pear fruit. Now put this aside and let's start making the pear fruit. And for this I am using a light green color yarn and the crochet hook of size 3 mm. Now let's begin by making a magic ring. So make a loop on your hand as shown in the video. Now from the center, take the working end out of the center. Now leave the center, make chain 1 and this is the magic ring. Now let's start making the first row into the center. Put your needle, drop a loop and make 1 single stitch. And now we are going to make 5 more single crochet stitches. So that's the second single stitch. Again insert the needle into the center, drop a loop and then the single stitch. That's the third one. Now the fourth one. Include the tail end while working in the magic center. Then the fifth one and then the sixth one. Once you have all the 6 single crochet stitches into the center, you can just confirm it by counting it. And now pull the tail end to close the magic center. Leave a small gap at the center to attach the stem on the top of it. So don't make it or don't close it too tight. Just leave the gap so that you will be able to pull the 2 threads into the fruit. Now put your needle on the top of the first stitch and then drop a loop and we are going to start the second row. So make 1 single stitch and this marks the beginning of the second row. So put your stitch marker into this first stitch. And now according to the pattern we have to make increases in each and every stitch. So put your needle into the same stitch and then make 1 more single crochet into the same stitch. So you have 2 single crochet stitches in the same stitch. That's a single crochet increase. And then we have 5 more stitches remaining. Now we have to make increase in each and every stitch. So that's 1 single stitch and then 1 more single stitch in the same stitch. So that's a second increase. Now making the third increase, 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch. Now into the next stitch, make the fourth increase. That's 2 single crochet stitches. And then into the next one, again make 1 more increase. That is the fifth one. And now in the last chain, in the last stitch, make the last increase. That is the 6th increase. So by the end of the second row, you will have 12 single crochet stitches. You can just count them. But from the back side 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and you will have the stitch marker in your 12th one. So this assures that you are following the pattern correctly. Now remove the stitch marker and now let's start making the third row. So for third row we have to make 1 single crochet stitch in each and every stitch. So put your stitch marker into the next stitch. Make 1 single stitch and then put the stitch marker back into the same stitch. So This is the first stitch in the third row. Now that's the second one, and likewise count and complete all the 12 single crochet stitches. That's the fourth one, then the fifth one, and then sixth single stitch, and make 6 more until you reach the starting point. And this will take a small curve shape which is for the top of the pear. Now here I am making the last single stitch of the third row. And now remove the stitch marker and let's start making the fourth row. So for this, first begin with 1 single crochet and then put the stitch marker back into this new stitch, and this marks the beginning of the fourth row. Now into the next stitch, make an increase. The increase is nothing but making 2 single crochet stitches in each and every stitch. So that's an increase. So this set, 1 stitch and 1 increase is 1 set, and that set of instructions have to be repeated total of 6 times. So here we are doing the second repetition. So the 1 single stitch and then we are doing a 1 increase. That's the second repetition. Now repeat it throughout the row until the starting point. So 1 stitch is already done for the 6th repetition, and I am doing the last repetition of the 4th row, that is the 6th repetition. This completes the 4th row with 18 single crochet stitches. You can check the count after each and every row. Now let's start making the 5th row. Make 1 single stitch and put the stitch marker back to mark the beginning of the 5th row, and then continue to make only 1 single crochet in each and every stitch. So whenever the return pattern I have written like 1 SC each, it's nothing but we have to make 1 single crochet in each and every stitch without any increases or decreases. So the count will remain the same. So in row 14 if you have 18 stitches, in row 5 also you will have 18 stitches. Now this completes the 5th row, and slowly it will start taking the shape of the pear. Now let's just stop it here and attach the stem onto the top of the pear. So for this you can attach it using a tapestry needle, or you can just poke your needle into the magic circle center, grab the tail ends of the dark green color yarn and pull in them to the inside of your project. So once you have attached it on the top, you can secure it inside with the center thread of the light green color. You can just make a simple knot with both the threads, and this will secure the join. If you want, you can just add a drop of glue to secure the join. After making a couple of knots, you can leave the tail ends into the project, and it will become the part of the filling. Or if it is bothering you from working, you can just trim the excess thread by leaving an inch or 2, and then you can continue your work. Just here I am not just trimming anything, I'll just put it into the project. And now let's continue with the remaining pattern. Now remove the stitch marker. Let's start making the next row. Begin with 1 single crochet and then put the stitch marker. Now we are going to start row 6. So for row 6 you will have 2 single stitches. We have already done 1 single stitch. Now make 1 more single stitch. So that's you have 2 single crochet stitches, and then in the next stitch make an increase, that is 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch. So this is one set, that's 2 single stitches and increase. That now we have to repeat that set of instructions for 6 times. So that's 2 single stitches and then increase. This is the second repetition. Now we are going to make the third repetition, and likewise you have to continue the pattern throughout the row. So now I am doing the third repetition, that's 1, 2 and then increase. This is the third repetition. Likewise we have to make 3 more repetitions throughout the row until the starting point. So here I am making the last increase, that is the part of the 6th repetition, and this completes the 6th row with 24 single crochet. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making the 7th row. Begin with 1 single crochet stitch and put the stitch marker into this new stitch, and this marks the beginning of the 7th row. Now make one single crochet stitch in each and every stitch throughout the row, and we are going to repeat the same thing for the 8th row as well. So which means in row 7 and 8 also you will have 24 single crochet stitches in both the rows. Here I am making the last single crochet of 8th row, and now remove the stitch marker and let's start making the 9th row. Begin with one single crochet. Now put the stitch marker into this stitch to mark the beginning of the 9th row. So we have 3 single stitches. One is already completed, that's the second single stitch, and this is the third single stitch. And now into this next stitch make one increase. So this is the first set. So 3 stitches and increase, and now I'm making the second set. So that's 1, 2 and 3. After that, in the next stitch, make one increase. This is the second repetition. So now repeat this throughout the row for 4 more times. And here I am making the last increase of the 6th repetition. So which will complete the 9th row with 30 single crochet stitches. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making the 10th row. Begin with one single stitch. Now put the stitch marker back to mark the beginning of the first stitch of the 10th row. Now make one single crochet stitch in each and every stitch throughout the row, and we are going to repeat the same pattern for row 11 and row 12 as well. So you'll have 30 single crochet stitch in each and every row for row 10, 11 and 12 as well. Now I am making the last single stitch of the 12th row, and now remove the stitch marker and let's start making the 13th row. So before that, this is how the shape of the pear should look like. And now for the 13th row, we will begin with one single crochet. Now put the stitch marker back, and for 13th row we have 2 single stitches. So that's the second single stitch, that's 2. And then in the next stitch make one increase, that is 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch. So 2 single stitch, 1 increase, and now we have 2 more single stitches, that's 1 and then 2. Now this set of 2 stitch increase and 2 stitch is one set of instruction, and this set of instructions have to be repeated 6 times. So this is the second repetition. 2 single stitch, increase and 2 single stitch. This is the second repetition of the same set of instructions. 2 single stitch, increase and 2 single stitch. Now we have to repeat this 4 more times throughout the row until the starting point. So here we have 2 more stitches. I am making the last 2 single stitches of the 6th repetition, and this completes the 13th row with 36 single crochet stitches. Now remove the stitch marker, make one single stitch, and let's start making the 14th row. Put the stitch marker into that new stitch. So that's 1. Now this is 2, 3, 4 and 5 single stitch. So once you have 5 single crochet, in the next stitch make an increase, that is 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch. So this is the first set, and this set of instructions have to be repeated 6 times. Now this is the second repetition. So 5 single crochet, and in the next stitch make an increase. This is the second set. Now repeat this 4 more times throughout the row, and here now I am making the last increase of the 14th row, and by the end of this row you will have 42 single crochet stitches. This will give you a nice curve shape of the pear. Now let's start making 15th row. Begin with one single stitch. Now we have 3 single stitches, so that's 1 already. This is the second one, and then the third one. Now in the next stitch make one increase, that is 2 single crochet into the same stitch. And now in the next 3 stitches make one single crochet in each. So this is the first set in the 15th row. 3 single stitch, increase and 3 single stitches. This is one set, and repeat that throughout the row until the starting point. Now I am making the 6th repetition of the 15th row. Make the last 3 single stitches, and now By the end of the 15th row, you will have 48 single crochet stitches. Remove the stitch marker and let's start making the 16th row. Begin with one single stitch. Put the stitch marker back to mark the beginning of the 16th row. Make one single crochet in each and every stitch throughout the row, and we are going to repeat the same pattern like making one single stitch in each stitch until row 19. So you will have same 48 stitches in each row from row 16 to row 19. So this will give you a body or the big part of the pear shape. So once row 19 is completed, you can see the shape of the pear is almost in full size. Now let us decrease the pattern from now on. So we'll start with row 20, make one single stitch and put the stitch marker back to mark the beginning of the 20th row. Then we have 3 single stitches, so one is already done, that's 2, and this is 3. Now we have to make a invisible invisible decrease of the single stitch. Put the needle in the front loops of next 2 stitches, drop a loop and then make a decrease. That's an invisible decrease, and now make 3 more single crochet stitches in the next 3 stitches. Now this is one set of the 20th row. 3 single stitches, decrease and 3 single stitches. Now we are doing the second repetition. So that's 1, 2 and 3, and now we have to make an invisible decrease. So insert the needle into the front loops of next 2 stitches, yarn over, drop a loop, and then you have 2 loops, make a single crochet. That's an invisible decrease. Now make 3 more single crochet stitches in the next 3 stitches. That's the second set. Now repeat the same pattern for 4 more times throughout the row until the starting point. So making the last 3 single stitches of the 20th row in the 6th repetition, and by the end of this row you will have 42 single crochet stitches. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making row 21, and for row 21 make one single crochet stitch in each and every stitch. So don't forget to put the stitch marker back, and this is how you will know where the new row has started. Okay, and in row 21 also you will have 42 single crochet stitches. Now the row 42 is completed. You can see the shape is turning inside, so the number of stitches are decreasing. Now let's start making row 22. We have 5 single crochet stitches, so that's 1. Put the stitch marker back, that's the second one, third single stitch, fourth one, and then the fifth one. So once you have the 5 single stitches, and in the next 2 stitches make an invisible decrease. Put the needle into the front loops of next 2 stitches and then make a decrease. That's the first set, and we are going to repeat this 5 more times. This is the second set, that's a 3rd single stitch, that's the 4th one, and then the 5th one. And now put the needle into front loops of next 2 stitches and then decrease. And that's the second set, and now repeat this throughout the row until the starting point. So we are making the last invisible decrease of 22, and by the end of this row you will have 36 single crochet stitches. Now you can see the shape of the pear, it's slowly decreasing. And now remove the stitch marker and let's start making row 23 with one single crochet stitch in each and every stitch. So before you start the next row, make one single stitch and put the stitch marker back to identify from which stitch you have started your row 23. And then continue to make one single crochet in each and every stitch. Repeat this throughout the row until the starting point. And this completes your 23rd row. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making row 24. So for row 24 we have 2 single crochet stitches in the beginning. So first make one single stitch and put the stitch marker back, and in the next stitch make one more single stitch. So you have 2 single crochet stitches, and then we are going to make a invisible decrease. By now you might have figured out how to make an invisible decrease, right? Now make 2 more single crochet stitches, and this set is one in set of instruction which we are going to repeat it throughout the row. Now this is the second repetition. 2 single stitches, 1 invisible decrease, and then 2 single stitches. That's the second repetition. Now repeat this 4 more times throughout the row until the starting point. So we have last 2 stitches, make 1 single stitch in these last 2, and this completes your row 24 with 30 single crochet stitches. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making row 25. We have 3 single stitches. So first make 1 single stitch and put the stitch marker back, and now make 1 more single stitch in the next stitch and then the later stitch. So we have 3 single stitches, and now make 1 invisible decrease, that is joining the next 2 stitches using a decrease. So this is the first set, and repeat this throughout the row for 6 times. Now I am doing the second set of instructions, like 3 single stitches and then 1 decrease. Again 3 single stitches and decrease, and throughout the row. And now by the end of the row 25, you will have 24 single crochet stitches. Here I am making the last invisible decrease of row 25. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making row 26. Begin with 1 single stitch, put the stitch marker back, and now in the next stitch we will have to make an invisible decrease. So insert the needle into the front loops of next 2 stitches, drop a loop and make a decrease, and in the next stitch make 1 single stitch. So we have 1 stitch decrease and 1 stitch as one set, and repeat this throughout the row for total of 6 times. So this is the second repetition. So 1 decrease and then 1 stitch, and repeat this until the starting point, and by the end of row 26 you will have 18 single crochet stitches. So making the last 1 single stitch. Now stop your work here and let's add the stuffing into the project. So make sure you have 18 single crochet stitches in your row 26. And while putting the stuffing, you should not overstuff your toy, and at the same time it should not be understuffed. So nicely puff up your fiber fill and stuff it into the project, covering all the sides of your project without any empty spaces in the middle. So once the project is completely stuffed, remove the stitch marker and let us continue to make the last few rows of our project. So we are now starting row 27. Begin with 1 single crochet, and now into the next 2 stitches we will make a decrease. So before that, put your stitch marker to mark the beginning of the 27th row. Now into the next 2 stitches we are going to make an invisible decrease. So put the needle into the front loops of next 2 stitches and make a decrease. So that is 1 set. Now we are doing the second set. So that's 1 stitch and then 1 decrease. And then the third set, 1 single stitch and then 1 decrease. Now the fourth set, and likewise continue until the starting point. So once the project is stuffed, it will be a little bit challenging for us to make the last few stitches, but just hang in there and it is all worth it at the end. Now remove the stitch marker and let's start making the last row. We have 6 invisible decreases. So we are going to start with an invisible decrease and then put the stitch marker on the top of the first decrease. And now we are going to make the second decrease. So in the final row we'll have 6 invisible decreases. Now turn your work and make it's not like turn, you can go to the next stitches and then make the third invisible decrease. Now likewise make 3 more invisible decreases until the starting point. So here I am making the last invisible decrease, and now let's do the finishing part. Remove the stitch marker and on the top of the first stitch make make a slip stitch. Once the slip stitch is made, make chain 1 and trim the excess thread by leaving a 6-inch tail end approximate. Now fasten off and secure the work. Adjust the stuffing And now let's do the last part of weaving in the ends. So for this I am using a tapestry needle. Now take the tail end into the tapestry needle. Now we have to pass this needle through the front loops of all the stitches on the last row. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now once the thread is into all the loops, just pull it out gently and then the opening will be closed. Now secure it with one gentle knot at the bottom of the project, and now insert the excess tail end into the project. Weave in it a couple of times to secure the joint and then cut the excess thread close to the project, and you can hide the excess threads into the stuffing. Adjust the fiber fill, and that's it. Your crochet pear is now ready. You can give a face to it by adding some eyes and make it even more interesting. The written pattern for this project is given in the description. Do check it out. I hope you all enjoyed watching this tutorial. Do give this pattern a try and let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. See you all in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please like the video, share it and subscribe to DIY Crafts.